Okay, this is some truly fruitful stuff. I think you're really going to appreciate this one. We're going to take a look at a back and forth on the subject of homelessness and whether or not the government can solve that problem. And this conversation is going to feature a guy who was an enormous influence on me politically, Pat Sajak, who is also the host of Wheel of Fortune, which I consider to be the television show of the working man. And he's going to go up against a political commentator, radio host, Rush Limbaugh, who, as you can see, looks like the type of guy that would go on Wheel of Fortune. So we have a lot of continuity right off the bat, which I like. But this is going to be, like I said, really fruitful and deep stuff. So take good notes on this. And as always, listen to their arguments, but also pay attention to their optics, because I think you're going to be really surprised by the end of this when you see who comes out on top. So here we go.
Doesn't solve any problem. After all the work they did, there's not one less homeless person around today. There aren't 4 million, there won't be 20, there are 600,000, 75% of them are in a sad shape because of substance abuse, and it's not an affordable housing problem. There weren't budget cuts. I mean, the whole homeless agenda is a lie, Pat.
All right, so I was going to listen to the argument, but at the very end, I noticed that little death stare that he leaves off on to give Pat. I mean, that is pretty intimidating. So optically, I think he's doing incredible so far. And his argument was that everything about homelessness is a lie. The numbers, I wasn't really paying attention to the argument because the optics were so strong, but I guess he said it's a lie. So we'll start with that, and let's see how Pat Sajak rebuttals this. Something tells me that this is going to be pretty intense stuff. Let's see.
Well, but you certainly agree there's a problem there. There are people, these are not actors.
There are, but it's a social problem, and you don't solve it with politics.
But what about the people who talk about it? This is a free country, as they say, and they're certainly entitled to come on and express their views, and it does sound humanitarian on the face of it, doesn't it?
So I really liked his counter to that, because Rush Limbaugh said the homelessness problem is made up. And then Pat Sajak says, what about the people who talk about it? So I think, pointing out that people talk about it, I think that was a really good rebuttal, because it shows that people do think about this. Not everybody thinks that it's made up. So maybe Pat is right, actually. And optically, he's looking good, too. I mean, I love his tie. It matches really nice with the, whatever you call that thing that comes out of the upper pocket. I don't know what those are called. It looks like he has a cell phone hanging out of the middle of his jacket, too. This was in the 80s, so he was probably pretty ahead of the curve in terms of that as well. But let's see how Rush responds to that. So Pat is saying people talk about it. All right, good argument.
Sounds humanitarian, and that's the key. But
isn't that part of your problem? And you may be very right in what you say, but doesn't that make you look as if you're coming down saying you don't care that people
if that does, see, that's the beauty of having 4 hours every day to deal with it, is that if people misunderstand the position, you can talk them through it and take care of it. And I think one of the problems is that the people like the ones you had on the show are oftentimes presented unchallenged, and they're presented without contention, and they absolutely get credit for caring, and caring doesn't solve anything. Action does.
So he's branding there. You can tell just by the lingo that he's using. I'm not sure if he believed in any of those arguments, but he's using a lot of snappy terms that he can make like T-shirts out of. Like he says, credit for caring. That just has a nice sound to it. Credit for caring. You can make a coffee mug out of it. You can make a T-shirt. You can make your own line of cigars or liquor. So I see what he's doing here, and I think from a capitalistic perspective, he's really practicing what he preaches, which I think is intellectually consistent. And so I think, he's doing okay. Optically, still looking good. He looks very strong. I just noticed his watch, actually, in this shot right here. So showing off some of the bling that's coming from his branding and selling of shirts and cigars and stuff. So good stuff. Let's see if Pat has anything else to really kind of just dump on top of him.
And the action they take is not designed to solve the problem, but merely perpetuate it in its current form, in my opinion. So,
all right, that was a bad optic right there. Let's rewatch it. He fumbled at the end. It looked like he lost his breath, maybe the walk up the stairs to get to the show, finally caught up to him. Watch his face at the end.
Should perpetuate it in its current form, in my opinion.
And then he's like gazing at the floor. That definitely lost a point for me. So right now, Pat is easily winning this. Maybe Rush can come back around and kind of throw him up against the ropes and get a finishing move in there. But right now, Pat has dominated it. Let's see if Pat can kind of just, finish him off with one last argument.
So shouldn't you have to offer an alternative action? What do you do?
I'll tell you what to do. Homeless University. You set up. No, wait. No, wait. You know what the problem?
The U of H?
The U of H. U of H. You put it in Malibu, Martin Sheen's backyard. You do, and the problem is that these people don't know how to access the opportunity that exists in our society. For whatever reason, they just don't know how to do it. You teach them.
I don't need to hear any more of that. I think it's pretty obvious what's going on here. So he was doing a lot of branding. His optics were good during the beginning of it, and the arguments were rock solid, but he started to fumble towards the middle. And now at the end, he just called for free college for the homeless. He said homeless universities, which is completely counter to any sort of conservative ideology. So not only did the optics get worse, but he also completely abandoned his base at the end. And I'm sure people were really outraged when they first saw this, because I'm sure, you know, the conservative taxpayers do not want to have to pay for homeless people to go to college now on top of everything else. So, I mean, that's them. That's not me. You know, I'm a centrist, so I want to pay, you know, kind of in the middle of whatever it would be to get people to go to college. And if that's zero, that's fine. I'll take it. But yeah, Pat Sajak just completely wiped the floor with him. So I think we learned a lot today. And as you could see, the optics are just as important as the arguments. And Pat Sajak, for anybody who hasn't checked out, you know, more of his political writings, I would recommend just looking it up online, do a Google search and see if anything comes up. And if it doesn't, just keep looking. But that is our lesson in optics today. This is Gail Chulo reminding you to stay grounded and stay centered. This is The Radical Centrist.